to another episode of the Language Lounge. Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Ola, and today I have Heidi Trude here with me today, and we're going to talk about leadership and associations, giving back, kind of becoming an active member of your world language community, essentially. And we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things. But one of the reasons we're doing this is through Wayside, we've had this series throughout the year called Lead Your Way to Proficiency, and where we're trying to help teachers that want to kind of expand their influence and their leadership, kind of get those kind of skills and talk to people that are in the profession with that. And so next Tuesday, this is going to air, I believe, on Thursday or Friday of February here. So on Tuesday, February 21st at 7 p.m. Eastern, and then down, 6 Central, 5 Mountain, 4 Pacific, we're going to have a session that focuses specifically on the topic of there's more than one way to lead. Because I think we know what a leader is, right? And often that's a very positional sort of thing, but there's lots of ways to lead. So we're going to have Heidi is going to be one of our guests. So thank you, Heidi, for joining us on Tuesday, as well as me here today. But we're going to do a little preview of that, essentially. But we're also going to have some other really, really great leaders in our field. So Nathan Lutz he's a co-chair of World Languages at Kent Place in New Jersey. He's going to talk about the joys and challenges of being like a school-based department chair. Heidi, you might have some experience with that as well.
Yeah.
But they have its own sort of things, right? So he's going to talk and have some discussions, collaborative discussions with colleagues about some of those kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly, they call it, or whatever. Shelley Brown from Texas is going to be talking about formal and informal coaching. And so how we can kind of influence the teacher next door through, with instructional practices, which is going to be really exciting. And then Terry Hammett is an amazing, she's been a leader in Florida and across the United States for many years now. And she's going to talk about leading up. And basically, you don't need a title, right, to be a leader. And so she's going to talk about some of those leadership things. So just wanted to kind of give a little preview of that and a little kind of reason why we're talking. And Heidi is going to, again, talk about opportunities in your professional language associations to not just be a participant, but to be an active participant and even maybe a leader, right? So
Exactly.
Heidi, thank you again. I just so much appreciate coming and talking with you. And so let's go ahead and start by I know you're involved in some organizations, just a couple.
Just a few.
What are you involved in now? So what are some of the things? I know you're involved in FLAVA, and obviously we're on the SCOLT board together. And then more importantly, like, how did that happen? You didn't just all of a sudden wake up one day and become the president of FLAVA, right? So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So just so you all know, a little background about me. I teach full-time, so like leading my state association is not my full-time job. I'm a full-time teacher here at Loudoun Valley High School in Purcellville, Virginia, so Northern Virginia, close to Dulles Airport, for those of you who don't know your Virginia geography. And I am also the president of FLAVA, the Foreign Language Association of Virginia. I serve as a member of the SCOLT Board of Directors as the program co-chair. And I'm also our co-chair of our World Language Department here at Loudoun Valley. So you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, that's a lot on her plate. Yes, it is. But how did I get started in FLAVA? I basically started in FLAVA as soon as I became a teacher. It was something that as I was in my grad program at the University of Mary Washington, my professor's like, you need to join your state association. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a university student. If my professor says you're supposed to do this, you do it. So I'm like, I didn't really know what I was joining at that time. I'm like, I still didn't know what it was as a beginning teacher, but I'm like, I was teaching at that point in a very rural high school. I was the only French teacher there and didn't really have any people. So I'm like, okay, well, Professor Reynolds says you need to join your state association. Let me try to figure this out. Okay, Google, found it. Okay, says go to conferences, etc. There's workshops. I'm like, okay, this sounds good because, well, I am me, myself, and I, the only French teacher in my building, and I know there was lots of other teachers in that position. So I'm like, let's give it a try. Maybe you can find your people. You'll start to meet other people besides my amazing coworkers at that time, which they were great, but they weren't French. So I was like, so I joined it, and then I was like, well, okay, I'm not quite ready to take the dive my first couple years to go to the conference, because I was like, this sounds scary to go on my own. So I was like, I'll wait a few years. So I waited a couple years, then I went to a conference, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. There's like all these people, and there's vendors, and there's people who think like me, and they want to share ideas and exchange emails and collaborate. I'm like, this is where I'm supposed to be. It made sense. So then I was like, okay, I want to participate in the FLAVA webinar series. However, they're like, you have to go to a host site. And I'm like, I'm looking at the list. I'm like, there's nothing near me, nothing. And I'm like, so I write an email to them, and I'm like, what do? I am in this small rural county. There's no host sites near me. I really want to attend and learn because I'm a new teacher. And they're like, well, do you want to be a host site? I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, you just show the webinar in your room and any people can come and you take attendance. I'm like, okay, I could do that. I'm like, even if it's just me? They're like, even if it's just you. But they're like, we like discussion. I'm like, okay, I'll bribe my department members to come, bribe them with food, come watch this. And that's how we started getting involved as a department, was through we called them interactive webinar series that FLAVA has. And that was just a great way to get PD from presenters, not just from our state, but from around the US that would come in and present workshops for free for members and non-members. So I was like, this is an awesome benefit. So it's like, okay, did that for a while. Then I got the courage finally, like several years into teaching, to actually put in a proposal, which that was a little scary because I'm like, well, are my ideas good enough? Like, I've seen all these amazing presenters at FLAVA. I'm like, I'm just starting out. Is what I have to say worth it? Is anyone even going to come? Who knows? But I'm like, you got to take a risk. I'm like, your people at my school are saying my ideas are great. Let's just take this risk. So I took the risk, presented, and then I was like, oh my God, it's a full room. It's scary now. It's okay. Let's just present. And then people were coming after saying, well, you need to meet this person. Do you know this person? And start that whole connections of like meeting and collaborating. And it kept going. And I was like, I am hooked on FLAVA.
I love it.
Yeah, that was kind of my little brief intro to FLAVA. And then, well, as we can see, the rest is history. I'm now president, but that's a whole story in and of itself.
But I love that. There's so many things that I think you brought up. I have a very similar experience to somebody when I was in my teach. I had a whole nother career before I was a teacher. So when I went back to school to become a teacher, my cooperating teacher, Sandy Cordersma, I got to give her a shout out. She's a wonderful French/Spanish teacher up in Maple, Wisconsin. And she had such an influence on me because she literally, not only did she say, you have to join your organization, like that's just a professional thing you just need to do. Right. I think that was just the expectation, but she dragged me along. I was a student teacher and she brought me to Waffles in Wisconsin. And that was my first experience with a conference. She just there were like probably 4 of us in a room. Cause that's how it flies at conferences sometimes, but she just opened it up. And that whole experience then I moved down to Florida, there was no question that I participate. Going from participating to being an active member, again, kind of like you, it's a little bit of a leap, right? But sometimes, and what I love that you said is that you saw a need, and just by asking the question and them saying, well, hey, inviting you to step up in that role, really was your first start. So I really love that. And I think there's so many needs that organizations have, and that you can find something with your strengths that you can, that you can offer and that you can give. And so I know you do a lot with technology, like in your classroom. And I've also seen your influence with technology then in your organization, right? So you're using that strength. So tell us how you've used your strengths to support your organization.
So that was actually how I got tapped to be a leader within FLAVA. They put out a plea. Whenever a new president comes on board, the president has the right to choose their committee members. So they put out, here's all the open positions. If anyone feels that they're highly qualified in these areas, please fill out the little application, the little interest form. So I was like, okay, because some people at FLAVA had mentioned to me, well, you're really techie, you're really great with technology, and there's going to be these positions opening. why don't you apply? So at that point, it was Dr. Dick Kettner who was president, and he was like, okay, you're my girl. You're going to be my Google girl. That became my little FLAVA name.
Google
the
girl.
Google
I love
girl.
it.
I was like, okay, cute, whatever. I was known as Google girl for a while, no longer. Now I just get a badge that says Techspert, which is quite cool. Like that
I like
one.
that. That's fun.
So yeah, at the conference, not only do I wear my normal ribbons, but then I have the one that says Techspert, which means I am now the one that runs everywhere to fix all the tech problems.
Mm-hmm.
But my role that I was put in for was the committee chair for communications, meaning I'm the one who was responsible for sending out any mass communications through our mail server that we use, also responsible for running all the social media. So at that point, FLAVA just had a Twitter and a Facebook. So putting the posts on there, creating the graphics, so using Canva and Adobe, any graphics we needed, running anything Google for us, basically getting us to modernize our practices a little more. We had a web editor, but I also knew how to do the web editing on the back end, even though that wasn't supposed to be my job. It became kind of a back job in case something ever happened to the web editor and he's like captured by unicorns, that Heidi knew what to do and could take over. So I stayed in that role for Dick's for his time as president. And then the board was like, you're so good at this. Why don't you consider actually running for a board position? And I was like, okay, that would leave me either president-elect, which I'm like, I do not feel ready for at that point, or I could run for the position at that point was called secretary. Well, that position then changed names. The board literally, when they heard that, yes, I would run, changed after I won the election. So that October I won, that was like 2018? Question mark? I think that was around then. It was right after I was FLAVA Toy is when it happened. So then they had an emergency meeting to actually change the role because they didn't want to lose me as doing the communications piece. So they put in an emergency vote to change secretary to become communications coordinator, which the title has now stuck. So not only does that role do the minutes of the meetings, but you're also doing the communications, which made sense, out to the membership and running social media, which it made a logical sense to make that switch, but they literally did not want to lose me doing that tech backend. So I was like, sure, cool, awesome. I can handle both things. And then basically the added responsibility was just take minutes at the meetings, which I was like, not a hard task. I mean, for some people, yeah, but I learned how to do it pretty quick with Google, using it all on Google Drive, making it accessible to everyone. And then it was quick transparency to our members where the minutes could literally go out to them and as soon as I was done with them. So I was in that role for 2 years. So every role in FLAVA, with the exception of president-elect and president, becomes everything is 2 years. So you're 2 years in communications coordinator. And then I was like, well, I was planning just to run for that position again because I liked it. It was easy, wasn't stress. But then there was some FLAVA drama, which does happen in your state associations, more so than you think, but you learn how to work through those situations with different people stepping out of the positions, stepping back in, etc. So we had some drama, but that drama resolved. And then it left me with the point of the current president at that point, Sue Robertson, was like, I think you're ready. Why don't you run for president-elect? And I'm like, but there's already other people running. I'm like, at this point, that would make it 3 people running. And it's 2 people who have been in the organization for a long time. They're well respected. I respect both of them very much so. So much so that one of them is actually one of my committee members now, and the other one is on our affiliate board, which is a whole nother realm of language organizations. But both of them, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable, or not really comfortable, but not confident running against 2 people who have been teaching for a lot longer than me, who were in roles of leadership. One is a district coordinator. The other one's a department chair. They've been in their district for a long time. They've been in FLAVA for longer than me. I'm like, at that point, I still felt like a baby member of FLAVA because I'm like, I've been around. I basically grew up in the association, but I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to make that plunge. But they were kind of like, you are you're doing it. And
So
I'm like,
some encouragement and
lots of
some
encouragement,
mentoring, it sounds
lots of
like,
encouragement and
happened.
mentoring. I mean, Sue Robertson is an amazing leader. Like, I was blessed, and I'm still blessed to be mentored by her. I call her my FLAVA mother because she basically, any questions I have, I go to mom, which is her. FLAVA
That's
mom,
great.
she takes care of me. And I was like, if she's telling me to do this, then I need to do it. I'm going to take that risk. We're going to see what happens. And well, I won. And now it was like, okay, I'm going to figure out a new direction for our organization. 2 years as president-elect during COVID wasn't the easiest to learn the ropes. And now it was like, we're coming back in person and trying to make transitions, shift FLAVA and our facing of FLAVA, trying to find new members, how to reach our beginning teachers. That's one of my whole missions for this year. So there's, oh my gosh, that could be a whole nother episode talking that train. But it's been an amazing journey, and that's what I call it. It's a journey. There's not an end because you keep going. It doesn't it?
I think you're right. I think once you really become a part of an organization, it's not just, I mean, obviously it's a lot of work. It's a lot of community. It's a lot of, that sort of thing. But I think that feeling of being able to advance our profession and to reach out to those that are struggling and those that are in a single rural school that may, how do you reach them? How do we become, how do I make our organizations more inclusive? How do we tap into the strengths of our members and give them what they need? And it's both, to me, I know it's both challenging, like it is that, it's a challenge. It's something that you kind of keep working, and it isn't easy to step away from, right? So even if you step away, you get sucked back in many ways. But I think that service to our community is what drives a lot of people. It sounds like that's what drives you.
Yeah. I mean, that is it completely. Like, I know I'm rolling off of the SCOLT board, our Southern Conference on Language Teaching. Like, it's hard to believe that I roll off in March after the conference. And I'm like, that 4 years went by really fast. But it's like, so I had the conversation like at home with my husband, and he's like, well, what are you going to do now? He's like, you're not going to be on SCOLT. I'm like, right. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to still be involved in some way. Yes, I won't be program director, but I will still put in proposals. I'll still go and present. And who knows, if it feels right, I could put in to run for the board again or other leadership opportunities within SCOLT. I mean, that's been mentioned to me before. Yeah. So it's like, I just feel it's something that I need to give back. Because so many people at the start, when I was that young teacher, clueless, thought about leaving the profession. I don't know how many times my first couple of years. That's something I usually don't share, but I did. I felt that way. I almost walked away a couple times, but it was literally having those connections in my associations and organizations that saved me, that kept me going. And it's like, I feel that I just have to give it back, like as a thank you to those who were there, who helped me. I want to help those who might not know they even need the help, and that there's these places you can go and learn from. So that's why I do it. And it's hard to step away. Like it's like, it's a part of me. I call FLAVA my family. SCOLT is my family. It's like my extended family. And you don't walk away from your family.
Right. They won't let you either.
No,
so
they won't.
And I think, one of the things that I also want to talk about is there are those formal roles. But but there's also, as a person, as a leader in an organization, I don't know that people realize how much need there is for volunteers. And that does not mean a 4-year commitment as a president-elect, right? So I know, I'm just stepping back from the presidency. I'm the past president now of NEL, the National Network for Early Language Learning. And the people that volunteered to be a producer on a Zoom meeting. They volunteer to retweet, conference presentations. We have committees. We have, so many things that you can really tap into at the experience and at the strength. If you have a certain strength, I would love somebody to volunteer to organize our Google Drive, right? Like it's a hot mess,
yes.
right? So if you have organizational skills, you might be the person that, whatever it might be. And so, I think people sometimes get stuck on positional
Exactly.
leadership,
Oh my
right?
gosh,
And there's rewards and challenges with those. And we've talked about those, but there's also those just being an active member, and that is being a leader in our profession by enhancing and moving our profession forward.
I completely agree with you, Michelle. Like there's so much, like people don't realize like all the little things, like even envelope stuffing.
Right.
That is so time consuming. Like, and it goes so much faster if we just have a little group. Like, hey, you want to spend a couple of hours with some of us on a Saturday? We usually go to someone's house. There's drinks. It's fun. You sit there, you give a few hours, stuff envelopes, have a great conversation. Whoever's hosting usually will make you really good food too. We do that. I mean, little things. If you're a friendly, warm, welcoming person, give an hour or two at registration. Like you have no idea how like stress relieving that is, knowing the board that we can actually either go watch a session or take care and put out another fire that's going on, because we know we have warm, welcoming bodies sitting at registration. Simple things of collecting lunch tickets. Like we're always putting out pleas for conference volunteers. Like, can you give 30 minutes and collect people's tickets? Can you run around and hand out the evaluation forms at sessions? Do you want to help us if we're doing a Zoom, be like a moderator and just moderate the chat, be the person that mutes people who comes in with their mics on? Like just simple things. They like stuff bags pre-conference. Like we have a bag stuffing party at FLAVA, and it's a lot more fun. It goes faster if we have a bunch of people there. So it's like just little ways that you can give back or serve on committees. Like in FLAVA, we have so many committees. Like the committees are kind of what lets me be able to do so many things and not feel like I'm as overwhelmed, because they're doing a lot of the work for me as president. And then we present it at the meetings. So they're the ones looking out like for membership, coming up with the strategies. They did a letter writing campaign this fall to all the superintendents, explaining the importance of our organization and asking teachers, like the superintendents, to encourage teachers to come. I mean, they did it by hand on like snail mail letters. We didn't even do email. So there was a group of them that did all the folding, the mailing, the putting on the stamps, all of that. It was like a group of them from Southwest Virginia got together. They're like, this is one way we can give back. We might not be able to come to the conference because it's so far, but can we take this on? I'm like, absolutely. Little things you can do. Like the little things, sometimes people saying, hey, I will do this for you, or hey, I can make a graphic this time, or do you need this done, or can we bring this? People who volunteered to bring projectors to the conference, like when we were scrambling to find a sponsor, I'm like, and you're willing to bring 12 projectors? Like that's a game changer.
That's a big deal.
For us.
Yeah, no,
like
and
little
I think
things that you might think of, oh, this is just simple, like to the board, it's a huge thing. So I would just encourage people, see what your gifts are, what you can offer, whether it's an hour of your time, 30 minutes of your time, or maybe you're really passionate about advocacy. You want to serve on our advocacy committee, and you have the time that you can go and write all the letters, create the flyers, the infographics, go attend meetings at our state capitol, which I'm like, that's not one of my strengths. So like, I am blessed to have an amazing advocacy chair who she's willing to do those things. She has the time. So it's like tapping into what you know you have time for, what is manageable to you, and what's also going to bring you joy. Because if it's not bringing you joy, then it's probably not where you want to be serving in the organization. So I would just encourage people, look for the small things. I mean, I started small by saying, I want to watch a webinar. How can I do that? I mean, it could be something as simple as that. Or you could be like, I really want to take that leap, take that plunge, and then become a communications coordinator or something bigger. Or start by being like, I want to be more involved. Maybe I heard about this program, Lil, which that's another whole topic we could talk about. Like, jump into Lil, and then you really are diving in a little deeper about what is leadership and how you can lead for languages in your state.
Yeah. So Lil is the leading initiative for language learner.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
I
you got
always
this
get
right.
that. I get there's so many L's in it. We'll put it in the
Yeah.
chat for sure. But that is thanks for bringing that up. So
Yeah.
LIL is an emerging leadership
Leader.
organization that is sponsored by your state organizations. And that is coming up for the next cohort.
Yeah,
And so we
cohort
can post some
applications
information.
are now open. So talk to your state
Yeah.
orgs or your regional organizations too, and national level like your AATGs, AATFs,
Yep.
AATSP,
Yeah.
and all the other ones that I get mixed up on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so, I think that the main thing that Heidi and I wanted to just kind of say is we want to invite everyone listening to kind of, join the organization and the profession, however that might be, whether it is just as an active member and participating or if you're ready to take that next step and kind of enhance your influence and leadership in the profession by maybe presenting, maybe volunteering, maybe assisting, maybe just coming up with a good idea and passing that on. I always say Glenda de Hoyos came to me with just a little idea that she had and she didn't know how to do it, and it turned into our PD and PJs monthly series now for the last 2 years, and it was just an inkling of an idea that she had. And before that, she was a state member, and now she's really becoming a leader in our organization.
And
and
she's awesome.
It starts, and she's amazing. And it starts
she's
with
a
just
FLAVA
that
member,
little,
so
yes,
yay.
she is. Yes,
she's wonderful.
And so she just, it starts with that little idea and understanding that, your voice is needed, your participation is needed. And if you're ready, your leadership is needed. So, Heidi, do you have anything else to kind of say?
I would just say,
I think you kind of wrapped it up really nicely.
I think we wrapped it up really nicely. I think look for your gifts that you have to offer, whether it's something small or if you want to take the leap, whether it's presenting, serving on a committee, maybe joining on the board when you feel you're ready, but share your gifts, share your talents, because I think each one of us brings something unique. We do it every day in our own classrooms or in your offices if you're an admin, but just share your gifts with others, because if you're not sharing the amazing things you're doing, no one's going to know about it. And like Michelle said, one small little idea can snowball into something bigger, and then you impact even more people. So we all lead in different ways, whether you consider yourself a leader or not. You are. People are watching you every day. So just keep bringing the joy that you do in your classroom and bring it to your state organizations and elsewhere, because everyone is needed. Everyone's voices matter. And we can't wait to see what great things you'll do for our profession.
I love it. Thank you so much, Heidi. And I look forward. Hopefully some people will join us next week to talk more about how can you get started, some experiences, have some discussions. They can ask you questions along with Nathan and Shelly and Terry. And I look forward to seeing you next week. And thank you everybody for listening. You can connect with us both, Michelle and Heidi, and your state organizations on Twitter and on Instagram. And we will put all that information in the show notes. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you, Michelle. Have an awesome day.
You too.